The voting for MVP races is usually agreeable, but what about the times when it gets hard to decide who deserves the award? Let's examine some races from the past 30 years where the competition got nail-bitingly close, leaving the fans on the edge of their seats. In this video, we'll be talking about some of the greatest MVP races in the history of all sports. First up, we have Major League Baseball. Let's not forget the crazy year where Giancarlo Stanton beat Joey Votto in obtaining the MVP title by only 2 votes. At times like this, you can tell that the voting had to be difficult. Playing in his final year in 2017 with the Miami Marlins, Stanton had made 59 home runs and led the league in runs batted in with 131 and OPS plus with 169. Joey Votto, however, was leading in overall OPS at 1.032, OBP with 0.454, and walks at 134. Both their performances were so insanely amazing that the voters didn't mind that neither the Marlins nor the Reds had managed to make the playoffs. The race was the closest in Major League Baseball since 1979, when Willie Stargell and Keith Hernandez tied for National League MVP. Now let's take a look at the NBA MVPs. The 2004-2005 season was the very first of 3 consecutive MVP seasons where Steve Nash, playing for the Phoenix Suns, would lead the league in terms of assists per game. In this season, he was leading with 11.5. Shaquille O'Neal was playing his first year with the Miami Heat and brought his usual crazy stats: 22.9 PPG, 2.3 BPG, and 10.4 RPG. Both teams had finished first in their respective divisions and made some deep playoff runs, but the Suns fell to the San Antonio Spurs and the Miami Heat lost to the Pistons in their conference finals. Steve Nash beat O'Neal for MVP by a 2.6 voting share, a very close call. Next up, let's talk about the WNBA. In the WNBA, we have 2 games where the MVP races were notably close. In 2005, Sheryl Swoopes beat Lauren Jackson for the title by only 2 points. Jackson from the Seattle Storm with a 17.6 PPG, 9.2 RPG, and 2.0 BPG had scored more first-position votes than Swoopes beat from the Houston Comets, who had an 18.6 PPG, 4.3 RPG, and 2.0 SPG. Still, Swoopes beat her when it came to total points. If Jackson had one more 4th-place vote than a 5th-place one, they would both have equal point totals. Later on in 2013, Candace Parker scored the title over Maya Moore with the upper hand of 16 points. The 3-way race with Parker from the Los Angeles Sparks beating both Moore from Minnesota Lynx and rookie Elena Del Don. Let's talk about the NFL now. Going back to 1997, the tie between Brett Favre and Barry Sanders was a real spectacle. Favre led the Green Bay Packers in the last 3 back-to-back MVP seasons to an appearance at the Super Bowl, throwing for a whole 3,867 yards, 35 touchdowns, and 16 interceptions. On the other hand, Barry Sanders practically put the Detroit Lions on his back, rushing for 2,053 yards, 11 scores, and 3 more receiving touchdowns. The Lions had lost in the wild card round, and Sanders played 1 more year before he retired. Things were quiet till Kurt Warner beat Marshall Faulk in 2001 by 4 votes. This race was a bit more awkward since both players had been on the same team, the St. Louis Rams, as it was called back then. Warner was throwing for 4,830 yards and had 36 touchdowns and 22 interceptions. Faulk, however, was a devious dual threat, rushing for 1,382 yards and 12 scores while putting up 765 yards and even 9 receiving touchdowns. Now for the remaining list. The following year, in 2002, we had another 4-point dominating win where Rich Gannon beat Brett Favre. Gannon, who was playing for the Oakland Raiders, was having the greatest season of his career. He threw for 4,689 yards, had 26 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, and led his team to the Super Bowl. Favre was acknowledged for being in a fully high-risk and high-rewards mode, leading the league to touchdown passes with 32, while also throwing 21 interceptions. The year after, that wasn't any less exciting, with a tie between Peyton Manning and Steve McNair. This was the first of Manning's 5 MVP awards. McNair was playing for the Tennessee Titans and throwing for 3,215 yards with 24 touchdown passes and 6 interceptions. Manning, on the other hand, playing for the Indianapolis Colts, led the NFL in passing yards with a score of 4,267, throwing 29 touchdown passes and making 10 interceptions. Still, both the quarterbacks lost in the playoffs that year to 3rd-place finisher Tom Brady. Moving on, these NHL close cuts are no joke. Now these are some of the craziest MVP wins, which caused some fan arguments. Federer is so little that you could say the players were on thin ice with this race. In the 1999-2000 season, Chris Pronger beat Jaromir Jágr for the title by only 1 point. Jágr led the league with 96 points, ironically his lowest point total between 1997 and 2001, yet Pronger led the league with his 52 plus-minus, which was a major factor in making him the very first defenseman to win the Hart since Bobby Orr in 1972. Pronger is also the very last defenseman to win the award ever since, followed by close MVP races in college football. In 2009, player Mark Ingram beat Tony Gerhart for the MVP title by 28 votes. Nobody could stop this college athlete with 1,658 yards rushing and 17 touchdowns, or champion Alabama Crimson Tide back in 2009. Yet Toby Gerhart gave it a go in the Heisman Trophy voting with 1,871 yards rushing and 28 touchdowns. Ingram's MVP win has the smallest margin of victory for any Heisman Trophy winner ever. Moving on, what about the most recent MVPs? For the last season, Nikola Jokic from the Denver Nuggets was named the 2021-22 Kia NBA MVP. This is Jokic's second NBA MVP win, making him the 13th player to win the title in consecutive seasons. Others in this club include Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Stephen Curry, and more. He received 875 points from a global panel of 100 broadcasters and sports writers. As for the MLB, the two-way sensation Shohei Ohtani managed to bag the American League MVP title, considering he had one of the greatest seasons in baseball in 2021. Ohtani received all 30 first-place votes from the BBWAA. Talk about a star player. He's also the second Japanese player to earn this honor, joining Ichiro Suzuki, who had won the American League MVP when he was only a rookie in 2001. In the WNBA, A'ja Wilson received the 2022 WNBA MVP title for the 2022 season. Wilson received 31 of the 56 first-place votes and a total of 478 total points from the panel. Breanna Stewart finished second with 23 first-place votes. Wilson is also the first player to be named the WNBA MVP and Defensive Player of the Year in the same season since back in 2007 when Lauren Jackson did the same. What a reward! Lastly, you won't believe these next few MVPs. Getting into the NFL, quarterback Aaron Rodgers was named the AP NFL MVP for the 2021 season. This Packers QB had become the second player in all of NFL history to earn 4 AP NFL MVP honors in his career. This title was also a consecutive win for Rodgers, keeping his record strong. He received 39 votes, with quarterback Tom Brady from the Buccaneers not too far behind, taking second place with a count of 10 tallies. The remaining votes were for Cooper Kupp. Now back to the icy world of the NHL. Austin Matthews from the Toronto Maple Leafs took home the Hart Trophy, voted as the most valuable player for the season at the 2022 NHL Awards. Matthews had led the NHL with a score of 60 goals, which set the most ever goal by a Maple Leafs player in a season and the most by a player from the United States in a season. This center player was the first to score so many points from 2011 to 2012 when Steven Stamkos scored 60 goals for the Tampa Bay Lightning. As for college football, the Georgia Bulldogs have finally gotten over the hump against Alabama for the first time in Kirby Smart's tenure as a head coach. A major reason for this was the 2 major touchdown passes from the QB Stetson Bennett in the College Football National Championship game were a major reason for this. Bennett was awarded MVP in Georgia's 33-18 win over Alabama. That's a wrap for this video. What do you think of these MVP races? Were they well-deserved or just a game of luck? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.